Same apartment, same starting rent, two completely different futures. If you pay $1,000 in rent today, in one future, you spend about $512,000. In the other, more than $822,000. That's over $300,000 difference for the exact same apartment. And the scary part? Both scenarios come from real historical rent data. So, how can the exact same apartment end up costing $300,000 more? Simple. Rent inflation. Because rent almost never stays the same. It grows, slowly, quietly, year after year. And depending on how fast it grows, your financial future can look completely different. Let's compare. I built an app that lets you track how your monthly rent could evolve over the next 3 decades. The app includes 4 different growth scenarios, all based on 40 years of historical CPI data for rent of primary residence. At first, it feels harmless. After 1 year, in the optimistic scenario, your rent becomes $1,023. In the pessimistic scenario, $1,052. Difference? Just $29 per month. Barely noticeable. And that's exactly why rent inflation is dangerous. The gap starts growing, but then things start changing. After 5 years, the gap begins to open up. Optimistic $1,122 per month, pessimistic $1,287 per month. Difference? $165 every month. Now, that's not tiny anymore. That's a smartphone, a weekend trip, or groceries every single month. And remember, nothing changed. Same apartment, same starting rent, only different rent growth. Now, let's jump to year 10. Optimistic $1,259 per month, pessimistic $1,657 per month. Difference? Almost $400 every month. That's a laptop every month, just from higher rent growth. And now, look at the total cost. Optimistic total paid $133,000. Pessimistic total paid $152,000. Difference? Almost $19,000. Enough for a used car. Gone to rent. And this is why rent inflation feels invisible. Nobody wakes up one day and suddenly pays double. It happens slowly. One increase here, another one there. Until one day you look back and realize your housing costs quietly took over your budget. This is not guesswork. Now, you might be wondering, where do these numbers even come from? We used 40 years of historical rent data. Specifically, Consumer Price Index, rent of primary residence. Then, instead of picking one random growth rate, we built 2 realistic scenarios. A lower growth future and a higher growth one. Optimistic scenario, 2.33% yearly increase. Pessimistic scenario, 5.18% yearly increase. The optimistic scenario comes from the lower end of historical rent growth. This is called P10, meaning historically only about 10% of years grew this slowly. The pessimistic scenario comes from the higher end, P90, meaning historically about 90% of years grew slower than this. Now it becomes serious. By year 15, the difference becomes impossible to ignore. Optimistic $1,413 per month, pessimistic $2,133 per month. Difference? $720 every month. That's an entire month's food budget, every single month. And total rent paid? Optimistic $212,000, pessimistic $262,000. Difference? Almost $50,000 apart. That's real money and brand new car. The 6-figure gap. Then comes year 20, and things escalate fast. Optimistic $1,585 per month, Pessimistic, $2,746 per month. Difference? More than $1,100 every month. That's a vacation budget. Every month. Optimistic $301,000, pessimistic $404,000. Difference? Over $100,000. Same apartment, same starting rent, different inflation path. The real shock, but the real shock comes after 30 years. Optimistic scenario, $1,996 per month. Still expensive, but survivable. Pessimistic scenario, $4,551 per month for the exact same apartment. And now, look at the total cost. Optimistic total paid $513,000. Pessimistic total paid $822,000. Difference? $309,612. Think about that. More than $300,000 for the exact same apartment. Not for ownership, not for equity, just for the right to keep living there. That's a house, gone, just from the difference between lower and higher rent growth. And again, this isn't fantasy. These numbers come from real historical CPI data. The real lesson. Now, does this mean renting is bad? No, that's not the point. Renting can make sense. Sometimes, it's the smartest option. But ignoring rent inflation? That's expensive. Because most people only ask, what's my rent today? Almost nobody asks, what will my rent look like 10 years from now? And that question changes everything. Because rent compounds, slowly, quietly, then suddenly, it becomes huge. So, put in your numbers, try your own scenario. It takes 10 seconds, and you might never look at rent the same way again. Now I'm curious, which scenario feels more realistic to you? The optimistic one or the pessimistic one? And what surprised you more? The monthly rent or the total cost? Let me know in the comments.